the process of meditating on the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead within oneself and the process of chanting the glories and pastimes of the Lord are the same. The only difference is that hearing and fixing the mind on the pastimes of the Lord is easier than visualizing the form of the Lord within one's heart. Because as soon as one begins to think of the Lord, especially in this age, the mind becomes disturbed. And due to so much agitation, the process of seeing the Lord within the mind is interrupted. When there is sound vibrated, praising the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, however, one is forced to hear. That hearing process enters into the mind, and the practice of yoga is automatically performed. For example, even a child can hear and derive the benefit of meditating on the pastimes of the Lord simply by listening to a reading from the Bhagavatam that describes the Lord as he is going to the pasturing ground with his cows and friends. Hearing includes applying the mind. In this age of Kali Yuga, Lord Chaitanya has recommended that one should always engage in chanting and hearing Bhagavad Gita. The Lord also says that the Mahatmas or great souls always engage in the process of chanting the glories of the Lord. And just by hearing, others derive the same benefit. Yoga necessitates meditation on the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, whether he is standing, moving, lying down, etc. So we are reading in this part of the Bhagavatam Lord Kapila's instructions to his mother about the yoga process. And we are seeing that how the yoga process is, Prabhupada began this, at the beginning of this chapter, Prabhupada said that this Ashtanga Yoga, this meditation is also an aspect of devotional service. And so we see how this whole process is being explained by Kapila to his mother. And in today's verse, he is talking about Shuddha Bhavena Chetasa Prekshaniya Ihitam Dhyayet. Dhyayet, to meditate upon. And Prabhupada has more clearly said to visualize. Because that's what the yogi is doing. He's sitting in a meditative posture after performing the asanas, yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, all of that. And now his mind has become very tranquil. And now he is supposed to visualize the form of the Lord in his heart. And that visualization is not just static form of the Lord. He should visualize the Lord standing, sthitham, vrajantam, moving about, asinam, seated, shayanam, lying down. In this way, va guha shayam, the Lord who is sitting, guha refers to the heart, and guha shayam, the Lord who is in the heart. And so, and how should he dhyayet, meditate on all of this? Shuddha bhavena chetasa, with a pure consciousness. And what are these? The Lord moving around, sitting, lying down, all of these things. These are his activities, ihitam. His activities are actually, Lord's activities are his pastimes. So, ihitam dhyayet. One should meditate or visualize all of these pastimes of the Lord. And how are these pastimes? What is the nature of these pastimes? Prekshaniya. Very, very attractive to look at. Very enchanting, very charming. So these enchanting, attractive, charming pastimes, dhyayet. prekshaniya ihitam dhyayet. And who should do it? How should he do it? What kind of a consciousness? Shuddha bhavena chetasa prekshaniya ihitam dhyayet. Thus always merged in devotional service. Shuddha bhavena chetasa. The yogi visualizes dhyayet, the Lord standing, sthitham, moving, vrajantam, lying down, asinam, shayanam, or sitting, asinam, within him, guhashayam. For the pastimes of the Supreme Lord, ihitam, are always beautiful and attractive, prekshaniya. And in the purport, we see that Srila Prabhupada has made a comparison of devotional service, Krishna consciousness, and the process of dhyana. In the process of dhyana, a yogi, dhyana yogi, sits and meditates on all of this and visualizes in his mind. Whereas in devotional service, in bhakti yoga, we hear and chant about the pastimes of the Lord. And Prabhupada is pointing out, in Kali Yuga, the mind is so disturbed and turbulent. If you sit down and try to visualize something, the mind will run here, there. So it's not so easy in Kali Yuga to do this dhyana process. A lot more easier is to sit and hear the pastimes being described. When we hear, you apply your mind too. It's not that you are hearing and the mind is somewhere. Of course, sometimes it can happen. But at least hearing is supposed to engage us, and we will be hearing and applying our mind and understanding and appreciating. Then automatically the mind has become focused and on the subject of the pastimes of the Lord. The dhyana objective is achieved. And this can be done even by a small child. So this is the advantage of the process of Krishna consciousness, the process of bhakti yoga, hearing and chanting the glories and the pastimes of the Lord, which are also prekshaniya ihitam. So like this we see Srila Prabhupada draws a parallel. Whenever a certain process of bhakti yoga, certain process of God realization is mentioned in the authentic scriptures, he points out that how in Krishna consciousness all of this is actually included. And Krishna consciousness has something more than what all other processes of God realization offers. That's why Srila Prabhupada gave that beautiful, simple example. If you have 1 crore rupees, you already have 10 rupees, 100 rupees, 1000 rupees. Because everything is included when you have 1 crore rupees. Krishna consciousness is like that summit of God realization. Yesterday, I don't know if you all noticed, or yesterday, 2 days back, I think. In the morning, in the evening Brahmotsava reading, Prabhupada made one very, very beautiful statement. Prabhupada's statements are very significant. Sometimes we miss it. That's why Prabhupada said you should read again and again. He has made some very, very, very powerful, very profound statements. Prabhupada says, the exchange of feelings between the living entities and God, the feelings between living entity and God, because Prabhupada is talking about God. God means any religion, right? Every religion talks about God, their own understanding of God. And the living entities, the followers of that religion, they have a certain feeling for that God, of their, whatever their God is. Of course, ultimately we know all religions are pointing to the same one single God. So all religion teaches certain feelings for God, and the highest feeling the living entity can ever develop about God is bhakti. is prema. Prema bhakti. So, the feelings of the living entity toward God is what every religion teaches. Now, the highest kind of feelings, highest feeling, how can feeling be highest? In terms of intensity, it can be highest. In terms of spontaneity, it can be highest. In terms of sweetness, it can be very, very sweet. Right? So, all of these feelings reach an epitome. And that's called prema bhakti. And that's the process of Krishna consciousness that is being taught in the Bhagavatam. Now, for all of these things, for a living entity to develop such feelings towards God, and not just feelings, we are talking about higher and higher feelings towards God, a very important pre-qualification is there. For us to seat such an elevated feeling for God, our consciousness must be purified. And that is true even in the dhyana process that Kapila is saying. That's why he is saying, Kapila Deva is saying, Shuddha bhavena chetasa. Chetasa, consciousness, Shuddha bhavena, with purity. Now, Krishna talks about dhyana in the 6th chapter of the Gita. And at some point, Krishna brings up a similar point. Yatro paramate chittam niruddham yoga sevaya. This is the 6th chapter of the Gita, 20th verse. Yatra, wherein, because Krishna is talking about dhyana, he has come to the process of, in dhyana, Ashtanga yoga, he's come to the process of samadhi, very 8th stage. Out of the Ashtanga, 8th one is samadhi. Now he is describing samadhi. In that state, yatra, in that state, yatra uparamate chittam niruddham yoga sevaya. Yoga sevaya, by the application of yoga, by the process of, by the engagement of the yoga, yoga sevaya, yatra uparamate chittam niruddham yoga sevaya. Chittam. What has happened to the chittam? Yatro paramate chittam niruddham yoga sevaya. By yoga sevaya, chittam has become, Prabhupada translates this, the stage of perfection is called trance or samadhi, when one's mind is completely restrained from material mental activities by practice of yoga. By practice of yoga, yoga sevaya. Niruddham. Niruddham means chittam niruddham. When the mind has become restrained from material mental activities. The mind has become restrained from material mental activities, and because of that, by the practice of yoga, and hence the chittam has come to the stage of uparamate. Uparamate, tranquil. Here it means complete absorption, trance. And yatro paramate chittam, that is called the samadhi. And interestingly, what is that state of trance? Prabhupada, in the synonyms, he says, yatro paramate, he translates, when one feels transcendental happiness. Yatro paramate chittam niruddham yoga sevaya. It simply means, yoga sevaya, by practice of yoga, the mind becomes restrained from niruddham, material mental activities, materialistic activities, and the mind has become uparamate, absorbed in transcendental happiness, has reached trance, has reached samadhi. So, when Krishna is saying this, yatro paramate chittam niruddham yoga sevaya, Srila Prabhupada restates this in the first sentence of the purport. I hope it's the first sentence of the purport, which is actually a very, very, one of the landmark statements of Srila Prabhupada's purport. By practice of yoga, because Krishna is talking about yoga sevaya, so Prabhupada is developing the same thing. By practice of yoga, one becomes gradually detached from material concepts. By practice of yoga, one becomes gradually detached, niruddham. Becomes niruddham from what? From material concepts. And then Prabhupada says, this is the primary characteristic of the yoga principle. Now Prabhupada is talking about, in a very general way, yoga principle, and what is the primary characteristic of the yoga principle is, because all yogas are meant to bring about this change. How quickly they bring about, to what extent they bring about, may be different. But this is the yoga principle and the primary characteristic of the yoga principle. And what is that? By practice of yoga, one becomes gradually detached from material concepts. So actually, we should appreciate what Prabhupada is saying here. Material concepts. What are the material? What is that? We become detached gradually from material concepts. Material concepts. The number one, or the foremost material concept is, we are the body. Right? That's a material concept. We are the body. And moment we understand that we are the body, we think about body's safety, body's well-being. And when we think about the material body, I am the body, and my safety, my well-being, my body's gratification, then we start thinking all of this can be secured with a lot of money, with a lot of possessions, with a lot of family members, loving relationships. When I have all of those things, I will be a very happy person. You see, these are all coming from the material concepts. And then the next thing is, me, my body, my well-being, which can be secured with wealth, assets and all, house, all of that. Now, as I grow older and older, all along I must have all of these nice facilities. If I have to have all of these enjoyment with the body for the whole lifetime, I must make savings, I must do this, I must invest, all of that planning will ensure and secure my happiness of the body, and I am the body. So the root is material concept. And the yoga principle is to gradually detach us from this, and that is the primary characteristic of any yoga. And that's why, isn't it, when we started practicing Krishna consciousness, reading Srila Prabhupada's books are very powerful to bring about these changes. Prabhupada's books are very powerful to bring about this detachment from material concepts. We start understanding, yes, I am not the body, I am a spirit soul. Who is this father? Who is this mother? I have had the countless fathers and mothers before. We start talking on that. Of course, we may talk, maybe it's not very, very deep realization, but at least we start understanding all these things. Another thing that we start understanding is, who cares for all this money, wealth, possession, old age, safety, security? Forget it. Isn't it? That's happened to all of, because for the outside world, in the material world, for people in the material concept of life, this is a big thing. How I make money, how my money is safe, how I will be very safe till the end of my life. Not only me, my children, my grandchildren, everyone, they should all be very safe and secure, and they should also be very happy. All coming from material concept. Yoga means to detach gradually from them. Niruddham yoga sevaya yatro paramate chittam. Only then, when your mind is tranquil, when the mind is purified, when the mind is in that state, you can do prekshaniya ihitam dhyayet shuddha bhavena chetasa. This is the Shuddha Bhavena Chetas. What is this consciousness purification? Yatro paramate chittam niruddham yoga sevaya. It is detachment of the mind, of the consciousness from all of these material concepts. And this is not just theoretical. It must manifest. And Srila Prabhupada's teachings start bringing about, even among very beginning followers like us, we start manifesting these things, and everyone around us in our family, they got separate. What's wrong with you? Why are you speaking like this? What's going? Somebody has brainwashed you. Who has put all this? They start seeing there's a difference in our thinking because the yoga process is working. Prabhupada's instructions are working in us, and they are not in touch with those instructions. They are not following those things. That's not working in them. You can very clearly see the difference. This is the greatness of Srila Prabhupada's instructions. His preaching, his teachings, the practice what he has taught us brings about this change and prepares our consciousness for higher and higher feelings towards God. And Bhagavatam is going to teach us the highest feelings of the living entities towards God, and the highest feelings were exhibited by whom? Ramya kachit vrajavadhu vargena ya kalpita. What Vrajavadhus, the damsels of Vrindavan, demonstrated, that is the highest feeling a living entity can have towards God, towards Krishna. So, we learn this, but we learn that we have to be detached from material concepts. But in due course of time, as we practice Krishna consciousness, we have to keep hearing this and reminding ourselves about this. Otherwise, Maya will come and once again weaken us and once again reinforce the material concepts if we are not careful. That is the nature of Maya. Maya tries to bring back the material concept because it's the material concept by which a living entity is captured and held in the material existence. If you get freed from the material concepts, you're out of the material world. So Maya's duty is to hold us. So Maya tries to bring back. So we have to be careful. I remember some years ago, I think I've told this story. I would, we come across some situations. There was one gentleman, a very powerful man in the Ministry of Finance, Government of India in Delhi. He could make phone calls to some of the biggest, richest people in the country, and he got us appointments for Akshay Patra. So, and because he did a lot of good service, he was in a very senior position in the Ministry of Finance. So we also made him an advisory board member of Akshay Patra. For some years he was there. And after that he retired, and then somehow we lost touch. Some years later, almost about 10 years later, once I got a call from him. And then I was surprised to hear him after maybe 4 or 5 years of no connection. And so he said, when you come to Delhi next time, can you please come and see me? I said, of course, I'll be happy to come and see you. And then I took down his address, and a month later or so, when I went to Delhi, I found his house and met him. And I was meeting him after about 5-6 years after his retirement. And so I could see the age on his face. He had become older than I had seen him. And then he and his wife received me, big bungalow, in their living room. And then we were sitting on the sofa. And then he came close to me where I was sitting. And then he held my hand and he said, Swamiji, you are all people very close to God. So I want you to make this prayer on my behalf to God. So I said, yes, tell me, what is it? How are you? What is happening? So he said, please pray to God that I should die very quickly. I said, why? What is happening? I mean, because I've seen him very powerful, very big bungalow, big car, big office. And so he was telling that he has developed a kind of a back pain. The spine is bent in some way. And he said in the last 2 or 3 years, he has tried an operation from the best hospital in America. He has tried all kinds of treatment. He has tried Ayurvedic. Everything he has tried. It is severe pain. When he stands, it pains. When he sits, it pains. When he lies down, every posture of the body, severe pain. And because of that, he has to constantly take about 8 tablets, painkillers throughout the day. And because of eating so many painkillers, his mouth is full of ulcers. And because of eating so many painkillers, his stomach is full of ulcers. He can't eat properly. So he says, I am miserable. Powerful man, big bungalow. His children are all in Germany, in America, well-to-do, lot of money. His retirement funds must be quite big. Nice loving wife, nice furniture. Where is happiness? This is the nature of material existence. This is the nature of material concepts. It simply cheats us. It puts us in an illusion, thinking that if I have all of these things, I'll be secure, I'll be happy in my old age, till the end of my life, my wife, my children, all of us, we will be happy. Such a wonderful plan I have made. These are all material concepts. We should be detached from all of these things. Actually, scientifically, we cannot be assured of any of these things, happiness. I was reading an article about cancer. You know, very interesting how a cancer develops. Scientists call this. Actually, in our body, there are, depending on the size, some of us are lean, some of us are, putting more weight, more heavy. So whatever it is, approximately about 15 to 100 million cells are there in the body. So 15 to 100 into 10 power 12 cells. That's the number of cells that are there. And there's a scientist, for 45 years, he has done research on oxygen. And he writes in his article, the way this body is made, every moment, a right quantity of oxygen should be reaching all of these 15 to 100 million cells for us to be normally sitting like this and doing normal work. Just see how complex this body structure is. And those are some few molecules of oxygen has to be going to each of these cells every moment. That's why we are breathing continuously, right? Taking the oxygen, and from the blood it's going all over the body, all over the cells. This is what is happening. Such a complex arrangement, isn't it? we can have any control on all of these things? To ensure those few molecules went to one in my kidney somewhere, one cell. Yes, it went one last moment, next moment it is going. I will ensure it keeps going. Can we do anything about all this? What are we? We are foolish thinking that we are in control of all these things. Prakrite kriyamanani. These are all material nature. Under the Lord's will it is happening. And we are thinking we are the controllers. I will ensure, I'll plan my life in such a way, I'll be very happy the rest of my life with my children, my house. This is stupid. But material concepts are like that. They makes the most intelligent man a big stupid fellow. That's the nature of Maya. And Srila Prabhupada's instruction saves us from all of that stupidity. This is the saving that Srila Prabhupada is saving us from that stupidity. So, now coming to the cancer. So, all of these 15 to 100 million cells, all of these cells are continuously dividing. Because there is some growth, regeneration, all of that. And there are certain controllers, chemical controllers, which tells the cell, divide. And then there are chemical receptor cells, which tells the cell, don't divide. Then the cells divide, and when they get the signal, don't divide, they remain. Again, when the signal comes to divide, they divide. Now, one single cell out of this 100 million cells, one single cell somehow stops listening to the signal of divide or don't divide and starts dividing. When it starts happening, then it leads to a tumor. And the tumor can become malignant, then it's called cancer. When that one cell, which cell, when it will happen, why it will happen, nobody knows. Scientists don't know. They're trying to figure out. Actually, they tried to figure out, they found that the answer is more complex than the question was. So they found out that it's the DNA which triggers. And so they went to the DNA of the cell. And the DNA, they said, each cell has a DNA which has got 3,000 million codes. And every time it divides, all the that's 3 billion codes have to be copied. It's like, one list, big book. I tell you, please make one copy of this book, Xerox and come. You'll make, and then one page you can make a mistake, no? So out of it's a 3 billion page book. It has to make a copy. When making most of the time it copies perfectly. Right? Most of us are not having cancer. Somebody develops. So many years we'll go without cancer. So it's perfectly copying. And then somehow it makes a mistake and then leads to the rogue cell, which goes on dividing. So like this, when you see all these things in science, you clearly see we are not in control of any of these things. So, what disease comes, to whom, when, anything can be controlled. It's not in our control. But foolishly we make our plans. Why? Because of the material concepts. And to become detached gradually from the material concepts by the practice of yoga is the preliminary characteristic. That is how you know the yoga is working in you. We can know for ourselves how much we are becoming detached from material concepts. Then we know the yoga practice is working. So like this. Now, this is all few minutes, maybe more. So all of this is to become pure. Shuddha bhavena chetasa yatro paramate chittam niruddham yoga sevaya. Chittam niruddham yoga sevaya. Because we want to develop the right feelings for Krishna. And that's why the 6th chapter ends Dhyana Yoga. Yoginam api sarvesham madgater antaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yomam same yukta tamo mata. The best yogi, in my opinion, Arjuna, is one who is totally devoted to me, bhakti. And in the 7th chapter, 6th chapter ends, the 7th chapter begins. 7th chapter, Krishna begins, Maya sakta mana partha yogam yunjan madashrayaha asamshayam samagram mam yathagnasya sita. Krishna begins to say, Maya sakta mana partha yogam yunjan madashrayaha. The practice of yoga, when the mind, when the consciousness is attached to Krishna. You see, feelings of the living entity towards God, when the feelings have become a feeling of attachment. Maya sakta mana partha yogam yunjan madashrayaha. Mad ashrayaha, under my shelter. And when the mind is attached to me, Krishna is already beginning. Next, how the soul can become, consciousness can become attached to Krishna. Now, we are talking about here today's verse, Prekshaniya ihitam dhyayet shuddha bhavena chetasa. So we should cleanse our consciousness so that we can dhyayet, we can visualize, we can meditate, we can hear about the wonderful pastimes of the Lord. Now, wonderful pastimes of the Lord. Bhagavatam's great revelation is right in the first verse. Janmadyasya yatonvayad itiratas charteshva bhignaswarat. There is one source from which janma, everything comes. There is one source which maintains everything. And there is one source into which everything goes back and rests. That's the meaning of Janmadyasya yataha. Janma adi means, it's understood. Janma adi means creation, maintenance, destruction. Janmadyasya yataha. Anvayad itaratas charteshva abhignaswarat. So abhignaswarat, that source, which is the source of everything, which maintains everything, and which is the rest for everything ultimately, is abhignaswarat. Is abhigna, means conscious. Swarat is independent. So actually the import of this statement is that source from which everything comes, everything is maintained, that source is a person. Conscious means person. Personality has consciousness, right? That's our experience. This table has no consciousness. We all have consciousness. We are all persons. An ant crawling also has consciousness. He's also a person, a small little person he is. Right? That's why he's running after sugar, some hole to hide. It is also a person. Like we also run to the prasadam hall right after this. We also want food. In the same way, that is also little person is running for his food, grain of sugar, something. So he's a person. We are all person. Now Bhagavatam is saying that source from which everything comes is also a person. Now, moment you say that the absolute truth is a person, as personal attributes. Let's say, for instance, you go to a party and a lot of people are well dressed and you're also well dressed and you're going and you're meeting so many people. And then you extend your hand and you shake hands, and then first thing, what do? You tell your name, and the other person also tells his name. Glad to meet you. I am Mr. So-and-so. I am so-and-so. Who are you? And then that person also tells, I am so-and-so. I am Jack. I am John. I am this or that, whatever. Right? Most important thing about a person is he has a name. Is there anyone without a name? Most people have more than one name. Isn't it? We all have a name. And that's why when we meet, what's your name? And what is my name? This is my name. We exchange our names. Name is a very important feature of a person. Right? And the next thing that we do is, after we talk about our name, the next most important thing is, what do you do? Right? I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, I'm an engineer, I'm a teacher, I'm a bank clerk, or this or that. We tell what we do. So these are two very important. The moment you talk about a person, the person has a name, many more things, but these are very fundamental things I'm talking about. Name and what you do. In the same way, if Bhagavatam is saying that the absolute truth is a person, what is the name of that person? Does he have a name? Bhagavatam says he has unlimited names. And the primary name is Krishna. And the next question is, what does he do? We want to know what is that source of everything, ultimate source, supremely independent. What is that source? What? He's a person. What's his name? And what does he do? You see? When you analyze the 6 questions of the sages of Naimisharanya, 3 questions are about what does he do? The questions the sages are asking are very profound questions. We don't have time today. We'll separately talk about 6 questions. Very, very interesting, very profound questions. And 3 questions, actually 3 questions concern his activities. Out of the 3 questions, one question not only concerns about his activities, why does he act? Right? If you meet somebody and you tell, this is my name, and he tells his name, I'm John, I'm this, all those things, then what do? I work in a bank, I work in a school, or whatever. Why does he do that work? Because he wants salary. Right? If there is no salary, who will work? Because with salary you can get your food, shelter, and all those kind of things. Now, look at God. He does not have, he's powerful, right? He's the source of everything. So food, shelter, none of those things are his problem. He doesn't need anything. Everything is his. Everything is coming from him. That's the definition of God. Absolute truth. But he is acting. So first question is, what does he do? Next question is, why does he do? Because for us, I do a bank job, I do clerk job, I do engineer job, doctor job, because I want money. Salary, my existence, my happiness, all of that is dependent. That's why I work. He works. Why does he work? These are some of the very, very profound philosophical questions that the sages of Naimisharanya are asking. And Bhagavatam, entire Bhagavatam is revolving around these 6 questions. That's why in Kunti's prayers, Kunti's answer is addressing, in her prayers it so happens, she is talking about the various reasons that are ascribed why the Lord acts in different ways, why the Lord appears in different ways. And that's why these prayers of Kunti are being cited and discussed in the Bhagavatam, because it answers those 6 questions. So these are some of the beautiful topics. And here Kapila is also saying that yes, the Lord sthitham vrajantam asinam shayanam guhashayam. The Lord does all of these things, and all of these things are his pastimes, and they are all prekshaniya ihitam. They are wonderful, attractive pastimes, and that we should dhyayet, and we should meditate on. And for doing that meditation, the qualification is shuddha bhavena chetasa. We'll stop here. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki.